Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Grant Blackburn, and I am the XTM expert, and I will be conducting today's webinar, which is XTM Connect for Marketo. We'll just give everybody a minute or so to join, settle in, and then we'll start the webinar. Thank you. Okay, so once again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Grant Blackburn. I am the XTM expert today who will be conducting the XTM Connect Marketo webinar. What we'll be doing is we'll be going through, I'll talk a little bit about the configuration, and then we'll go actually into a live preview of the webinar itself. If you have any questions or queries, please do feel free to put them into the chat box, and I will get to them as quickly as I can or as and when I see them. So just as a quick couple of housekeeping rules, everybody is on mute. So as I mentioned, is if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kick off now. As I said, got today's topics. So we are looking at XTM's Marketo connector, the automating translations of digital marketing assets. The topics we're going to be covering, just to give you an idea, is the Marketo connector configuration. So we'll talk a little bit about how to set up the XTM Marketo Chrome extension, because our Marketo connector is based on a Chrome extension. We'll then also do a quick talk around the type of configuration that's needed within XTM, the type of user that's required. We will then look at is submitting content to XTM. So where do we go to, and the type of content that we can submit via our Marketo connector. So for example, emails or email templates, landing pages or landing page templates, forms and snippets. All of these are possible to process via the Marketo connector. We'll then look at the translation process in XTM itself. So we'll look at how the ability using project templates, we can automatically create a project, the translation of that particular project, and then returning the content back to Marketo. We'll also be looking at the visual mode. So the because Marketo supports a visual mode, and then also how we can actually preview of the translated content coming back into Marketo. So as I mentioned at the beginning, is if you have any questions or queries, please do feel free to put them in the chat box, and I will do my best to, when I see them, answer them. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is configuration. How do we go about configuring our Marketo connector? So our Marketo connector, you need to log into your Google account. This is very important. Go into your Google account, go to the extensions. So I've just put the web address up here, and from within the extensions, you will then do a search for XTM Marketo. Once you've done that, you will find it. It looks like this. What you have to then do is click Add to Chrome. So this is very important. I've just taken screenshots here because I previously added the connector to mine. Once you've set up the connector within Chrome, and I'll show it to you how it looks, the XTM support team will then need to enable you on our Chrome admin panel. And that literally means it's just giving you access to it. So we will then send you as a username and password and URL that you can use to work with the Marketo connector. At the same time as what you need to do in XTM is you need to have a user in XTM that's set up. That user has to have a PM role. The reason why is that the PM role, that we can give them access to the API. If it's going to be almost as a dumb user, I suppose, or kind of just a user to process Marketo, we can give them access to the well, just directly to the API, that user will never be able to actually access XTM via the user interface or via the UI. We would also advise is when setting up here is creating a customer in XTM dedicated to Marketo. The reason we say is do that is just easier to process the projects or keep an eye on the projects. You can see what's done. And of course, using project templates, we can leverage multiple TMs or multiple customers TMs on there. So we won't be missing out any of the matching, etc. So what we're going to now do is we're going to actually go into the live demo, and I will show you what it looks like within Marketo. So let's just jump over here. So this is, I've already logged into our Marketo. You will also see within our Marketo, I've got this little X app over here, and this is the actual Chrome extension that we're going to be using. So you can see XTM Marketo Connector has access to the site. It's very, very important that it does. So this is our Marketo. We are working within is the Design Studio area. And we will just see, as I mentioned right in the beginning, is the types of content that we can send using the Marketo connector. We can send is email templates or emails, forms, landing page templates, or landing pages and snippets. All of this is possible to be pushed through the connector. Today, we're going to focus on emails. So we can see as we've got all of our emails over here. I've created a folder for myself because this is where all of my emails are going to be. And within here, I've got is some emails that I've created already. And what we're going to be looking at is the ones that I've done. So what we're going to do is we select our email. So this is normally, this could be is done by somebody who uses Marketo. So possibly within the business or within the enterprise that you're working, you have a dedicated person that works with Marketo. That's great. They can then come in, they can create the emails or the email templates, etc. They just need to then select it. And we can see on this one here, we'll be selecting its expert webinar October, or this one, the 28th of October, either one of them. So we're going to select this one. I can preview what that email looks like. So you and anybody who's familiar with Marketo, they will recognize all of this. So this is just the Marketo email designer, where we can see what it would look like on a desktop, on a phone, or on a text. So this is going to be the email that we're going to be sending through there, just talking a bit. So it's a very, very basic one that I'm using here. Now we've done that, we're going to click on our Chrome extension. And clicking on this Chrome extension over here, what you're going to see is we can already see what's happening here. And I actually don't want that one. I want to use this one. So I'm going to click on that one and switch over. So clicking over here, this little Chrome extension has access to Marketo. We can see that it's got the name associated with the project because this was a project that was created earlier on. We've got our source language and we have our target languages. The most important thing to note here is the source and target languages are mapped from XTM. So within XTM, when you've created your customer or you're using your customer, please make sure you're using customized language combinations or default and customized language combinations. You can then select it. So we've got here, for example, is a source. We've got the English, GB, if it happens to be English US, or if it's any other language, you can specify the source. At the same time, we will then have our translations. You'll also see just within this configuration icon, the name. So this is the username and password that is given to you by XTM support when we've set you up in the admin panel. We'll have an email. You can put in an email address. And now the great thing with this is if, for example, you have a marketing person internally who deals with Marketo only, they might not work in XTM, or maybe they do. It could be a cross role. If they don't, you can put in their email address over here. And what this means is that they would then be notified via the connector when all languages are back for a particular project. Okay, so they can put that in. The backend URL, this is given to you via the XTM support team. We can select our default source language, and we can also require projects to always have a due date. So we can do that, or we don't have to. I'm just going to hit save here. We can see the settings have been saved successfully. So what we're going to now do is we're going to tick over here. When we tick this, we've got access to is request translations. Now, when clicking on the request translations, you can see here where I can give it a project name. This particular project name is what will show up in XTM. So we can name it. We've got the template. So we've got our templates over here. Now, if you're familiar with XTM, you will know about project templates. And our project templates allow our users, or allow the process to automate project creation or all of the different types of settings and things. So we're going to be using as our Marketo template over here. We've got a source language, and we can see is we could select all of these to go in for translation, or we could select one or two languages. I'm going to just select French for now. Due date, I can select the due date for this particular project. So we're going to just say the 2nd of November. And here within the remarks area, our Marketo user or anybody can actually add notes. Any notes here will be included in the project description. So that's the most important thing, is when this gets pushed through to XTM, we will be able to see all of the notes in there. So I'm going to just hit submit request. And what's going to happen is we're going to be just sending French through, and we can see the translation request has been submitted successfully. You will also now see is that all of these are currently in orange, as this means they are in progress, or they've come back and they're waiting for everything to come through. So now what I want to do is I'm going to switch over to my XTM account. If you haven't seen XTM before, please note I have signed in as an administrator and project manager, which means I am the highest level of user within XTM. So this is the reason why I get to see all the different tabs available over here, all the different areas. And as I mentioned, is when we're doing a configuration or when we're setting up the connector, one of the things we've got to do is specify a user. So we create a user. So this is just my user over here that I've got here, but we could potentially create something for Marketo itself. And I'm going to look at it's just this term bridge PM. This is quite a nice one here. So we can see it's got the project manager role, access rights. We can decide if we want to allow them to only access via the user interface and API, only user interface or only API. I always like to say is if you set up a specific user for a Marketo connector or another connector, and as I said, it's just a default user that's used, just set it to be only API. There's no reason for anybody to need to log in with those credentials. The next thing that we're going to look at is the customer area. So we've created a customer called Marketo, which I think is on the next page. Here's our Marketo customer. With our Marketo customer, we've kept it very, very basic. So we've created it, we call them Marketo. And as I mentioned, language combinations. Most important thing is to set up the language combinations. We can either use this setting, customized language combinations only, or system defaults with customized language combinations. The reason for this is this will allow the connector to read what's there. So we've done that. And the other thing I want to show you is the template, because the template is of vital importance. So just coming down, we'll find is our Marketo template. So we saw that this template was available to me in Marketo. Some of the details over here, as I mentioned, we've got our source and our target languages available there. We've got the ability to add on additional TM and terminology if required. We can also set all of our different TM settings. What is our workflow going to look like? If we're going to use machine translation, anything like that. But the most important ones here is automatically start the project. So this means when we create the project in Marketo, we use a template, it's automatically creating and it's also automatically allocating the different users to this. So we've got this all set up. We're going to come through and I'm going to just show you the project that I was working on earlier. Just nice to give you an idea. So we can see this is where I put in a note within Marketo. And this is just here a requester can leave notes either for the PM or for a linguist. These will show up in the project description. So it's one way, as if the person doesn't work within XTM, they're just in marketing, they can pass you notes, references, the likes. We can see all of the details there. We can see the delivery due date. We can see the metrics, how many metrics there are. And now coming to the workflow. The workflow is the most important one here. So I'm going to just literally select as our Spanish content. And our linguist would normally be doing the translation. So I'm just going here into our correct step. This particular one, we are using machine translation. So I've done is a lot of MT in here, and we can actually just see as the different content that's come through. So I am in no way a Spanish linguist, so I'm just quickly flicking through just to start approving some of the statuses here, and I just have to accept that it is correct. But this is great. As a linguist, I'm happy I can see this, but also I wanted to see what does it look like. So we come to is our visual mode. When we click on our visual mode, we can actually enable a view of what does this email template look like. So we can view this in Marketo, but at the same time as a linguist or the PM also has the ability to come and view it. So here we've got is our email garden template, free delivery. Here's the selection of the seasonal fruit boxes. So we've got just an idea of how it looks. The other thing I can do is I can click anywhere on here, and you can see where I can actually start making changes. And if I just click out of here and go back to the logo, we're going to see in real time how these changes are affected. Let's just go back, and I wanted to change this back to that one. We're restoring the segment, and we'll just go back. So it's going back to what it looks like. So we're happy with everything we've done here. Our linguists are done. They're happy. They've looked at everything. They can see everything. It's all looking great. We can also see if there is going to be issues with length, anything like that. And also at the same time is our linguists, if they would like to only focus on the target file, they can, just by moving that and just dragging this across. So all of this is available to them. And the other thing that's also available to them is you can see where we've actually got our terminology. So if we had specific terms, so say this could be for a product launch or anything like that, we have terminology that would also help our linguists with the translation. So we're going to finish off the task, and I'm happy with that. Now, what happens is this particular task is now finished. We can see it was just Spanish. We can see this is being completed. We can go to our files area, and we'll be able to see here in our Spanish files that the target file has been generated. That's great. I'm happy with all of that. But the most important thing, what we've come here today, is to see that these particular files can round trip back to our connector. So once we've completed this, we'll be able to go back into Marketo. We will just refresh Marketo, and depending on the refresh rate that we've set, so for this particular account of ours, we set the refresh rate quite long. So it's normally about 10 minutes for the email to come back. When it does come back, the Marketo person or you will be able to see where we've got the language codes appended to them. So these are the translated emails that have come back here. So I've got it here. Once again, I can preview the email here within Marketo. This is going to show me how it looks like within Spanish. So if it's obviously been translated, but at least it gives our Marketo person an idea. They can view it, they can have a look at it, they can see how it's going to look in phone or the text side of it. And this is quite nice to see is that as much as the logo here was actually broken within Marketo, I'll need to get this fixed afterwards, XTM managed to show it correctly in visual mode. So we had an idea. But this is a 2-second job for our marketing team just to fix that. We can also see where we've got all of it. So it's now been translated. So we're happy. That's been done. We can also at the same time see is with any of our ones that we're doing. So when we come back here and we just click on, we'll also be able to see here, for example, we can show the preview over here. We can re-download the file. Now, with this particular project, as you can see where I've already got French going, if we added in any more languages here, what XTM will do, and I'm just going to jump back into XTM, just to this grant project over here, it will actually, because the project was still live, we will just add on additional languages to keep that going. So it's, in a way, it's like a continuous project. As long as the project is live, we can do that. At the same time as if the project is underway and all of a sudden the content gets updated here in Marketo, that is not a problem. We can resend updated content through. We'll also be able to see, we also only ever send draft emails through for translation. So as long as it's in a draft status, we can send it. We would be able to update it or make changes and then resend that through. And of course, once everybody's happy with everything, they can then actually just publish the Marketo or send out the email or publish the landing page, whatever it happens to be.